Welcome, everybody. This is Internet Marketing Unleashed. I'm Scott Patton, the Dean of Blogonomics and Podology. Happy to have you here with us. I'm very, very excited because our guest today is a serial entrepreneur. He founded his first company over 32 years ago, so he must have been like 5. He's a passionate, lifelong learner, expert marketer. He's got a lot of experience in email marketing. I have 0, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. He's the ability to quickly understand concepts, adapt to new technologies and new media, making him a valuable contributor to any sales and marketing problem-solving conversation or marketing strategy. He's a dynamic, powerful, and knowledgeable speaker, and he recently launched his podcast, Real Marketing, Real Fast. Doug Morneau, welcome to the show.
Hey, Scott, super happy to be here. I just appreciate you taking the time and inviting me on the show.
Thank you. So you're up in Canada, I'm down in Colombia, and you moved to a brand new home in one of my favorite parts of British Columbia. So near Maple Ridge and Alouette Lake, I think is the name of the lake,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Cool. So lots of changes.
Yeah, lots of changes. I mean, 3 grandkids now. So it's been interesting because the 2 oldest ones now are old enough to understand. So I've got the one's 4, one's 2. The 6-month-old still doing a 6-month-old do just drool. But it's like, hey, when can we go to Granddad's place and hang out? So it's great to have the kids come over for a sleepover. Typically not on Thursdays because Thursday's my podcast day. And I need the house to be quiet, not roaring in the office. Granddad, let's go outside and play. It's like that doesn't work in the middle of an interview.
So tell us a little bit about some of the businesses that you've started. I didn't actually realize that you were a serial entrepreneur and had started so many.
Well, I guess I started at a really young age. My grandfather was in business, and he was kind of my mentor. I looked up to him. My dad was not a business guy, so I really kind of leaned on to what my grandfather was doing. So I started just basically, knocking doors when I was super young and doing chores around people's homes, and from there it grew. I worked, as I was working in my career, I was taking night school, and I started a number of businesses. So I've worked in a whole variety of different industries. Once I got into the marketing field, I just absolutely loved it. And so, in the marketing field, I've done lots of stuff. I've helped people, set up coffee bars, restaurants, find sites, negotiate leases, hire staff, put together O&T manuals, set up all their sales and marketing materials, and hand the keys back to them. Today, obviously, everything's gone digital, and more now than ever before. And so, probably 12, 15 years ago, we transitioned to most of what we're doing now to the digital space.
Very cool. So where do you focus? What's your focus in the digital space?
Moving the sales dial. So I tell people that I'm tactic agnostic, although, I do spend a lot of time in the email space. But, my disclaimer on that is, I only spend money on things that work. So, the day that email stops producing revenue, moving the sales dial, I'll take that out of the media mix. So, I use everything you can possibly imagine: social, direct mail, email, phone, chat, paid ads, all of it. But I'm typically looking for what, the blue ocean strategy. You've been an author for a long time, right? So you understand that. Well, a good example right now is everybody's on Facebook because they think that's where you need to be. And not that I'm saying I'm not on Facebook, I'm on Facebook too, but there's more advertising in the world than just Facebook. And there's more advertising in the world than just Google. There's a lot of channels and a lot of tactics that you can use that don't involve Facebook. So that's where everybody is. So yeah, we're there, but that's maybe not where I'm going to focus most of my effort.
Cool. You're right. I love the reference to the blue ocean. Blue Ocean, Red Ocean, a really important book. Just loved it.
Yeah.
And the trick is always looking for a blue ocean, knowing that sooner or later it's going to become a red ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what Gary Vee says. It's kind of funny because he says that, a lot of these tactics work, but what happens is he said marketers come along and ruin them. So, I'll give you an example. Right now, we've been testing some new technology that allows me to install a widget on your website and I can capture the contact information of anonymous visitors. And I can put
Wow.
them into an autoresponder sequence that would say, "Hey, Scott, thanks for stopping by the Real Marketing Real Fast podcast today. I noticed that you were looking at my episode with John Smith. Is there any questions that I can answer for you?" And so I can start a drip sequence conversation with somebody, and I know their first name, last name, their physical mailing address, their IP address, what page they're on, and how they got there.
Wow.
So that's where technology is today. So again, I'm not saying Facebook's bad. I'm just saying there's some new stuff as the world evolves. Now, how long will this last? I don't know. People will blow it up and misuse it and abuse it, and it will eventually be less effective.
I was thinking when you were telling the story that you were going to say, and then the marketers got in and just ruined it, and now it doesn't work anymore. But
not yet.
That hasn't happened yet.
I'm not publicizing it widely. We're just talking to our clients quietly, saying, "Hey, if you've got web traffic, we can probably, like 95% of the people bounce. We can probably capture 30% of them and start a conversation. Are you interested in that? Because you're already paying money to get them there."
Right. So, wow, that's really fascinating. How much volume would a website need to have to do this?
Well, I mean, you're going to get 30% of your volume if you're collecting the direct mail information as well. So
if you had 300 visitors a day, would that be worth? Let's pretend there's 300 individual visitors a day. Would that be worthwhile doing it?
Yep, I'd say just test it.
Just test it.
And it depends. Again, it depends how much data you want. If you just want the email, you get a higher capture rate. But what's always interesting to me is I like capturing the full data, because I know exactly where people are. I know, oh, this person's coming from Arkansas and this is where they are. So if I'm looking at spending money on other advertising, or if you've got a high ticket item, send them a piece of direct mail. I mean, if you're selling something that's in the $5,000 range, actually send them a letter, because you can address it to them and have the conversation. Now, if you're selling, a $6 bottle of shampoo, can't do that.
Right. Well, what got me excited when you were telling me that was I have some clients that send direct mail. Yeah. When you said the address, I was like, whoa, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll have to talk about this when we're finished the show in a little more detail, because I have at least 3 clients for you.
So there's my blue ocean strategy, right? Where aren't all the marketers? That's where I want to be until the marketers show up, and we'll still stay there again. So I'm not saying that these things are bad, but
when you're first implementing something like what you're talking about, then that gives you a real nice advantage, competitive. Like your clients get a big advantage competitively until maybe a year or 2 years from now, when everybody decides they want to do that.
Yep.
And maybe they don't find out. Like, I'm part of a mastermind, and we share a lot of our secrets in our mastermind, right? And then somebody went and posted about it to the world, and we all said, like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Because when there's 100 of us and 4 of us pay attention and do something, that's really different than when there's 500,000 marketers doing the same thing, and it gets shut down because all of a sudden Google doesn't like it, or for whatever reason, right?
Yeah. Well, that's been the issue. That's been my experience with my clients in the past, when I was doing a lot of work in the venture capital space and helping these guys raise money or promote their public companies. I'd go out there to try to discover new media. So I'm always looking and testing. So testing to me is I talk to the company, I do my background, I do my due diligence, I pull out my credit card, I buy it, I try it. If it works, I recommend it. And the challenge was getting our clients to stop bragging about it. It's like, quit telling your friends, because as soon as you finish telling your friends, 15 minutes later, they're your friends, all right, but they phone me. And so now they're going to compete with you, or worse yet, they tell a bunch of other people, and now we have more competition for the media, which drives up the prices and reduces the availability. So it's like, do the world a favor and be quiet. Just quietly make your money, generate your leads, and quit telling everybody what we're doing.
Yes. Yeah. Because there's just too many copycats in our industry.
Yep.
So one of the things that you're really good at is business breakthroughs, and it's really interesting because I worked for the Internet Marketing Center in 2003, 4, and 5, and they had about $28 million in annual sales. And they would go around, do these boot camps, and other successful internet marketers would show up. And one of the things that they always asked us was, I'm stuck at $5 million a year in sales. It doesn't matter what I do, I can't break through that ceiling. You guys are at 28 million, how did you do it? And after listening to our executives answer the question, it was obvious to me they didn't know what they did.
That's funny.
And unfortunately, the owner passed away and the company collapsed a few years later. So they didn't even know how to maintain it, to be quite honest. So it really was an example in my mind of someone being at the right place, the right time, with the right products for the market, and then being the creative. And he passed away. He wasn't able to continue to grow with the market, and and his people were not. They were just yes people, and so they couldn't grow it. But so how do you make breakthroughs? Like if you're stuck at a certain level, doesn't matter what it is, how do you get to the next level?
Well, I mean, what got you to the 5 million isn't going to get you to the 10 million. So, when I had when I was working home based in my business, the next level was to start onboarding a team member. So I had some people help. And then from there, I moved to a small office, and then I moved to, I had to change my tactics. So I think, whatever got you there is great, but it's probably not going to move you to the next level. And then you also need to look around at your team and say, hey, do you have all the right people on your team? Do they have the right skills? Do you have the right tools? And you're likely to need to make some changes in your core team. And that may be things like your banker, your accountant, your lawyer, and some of the people internally. You may be at a point where, hey, now it's time to hire a CFO. I didn't need that before, or hire a chief marketing officer, or even bring somebody in part-time. Like you can bring in, like I've done work as a fractional CMO. So someone will pay me a retainer, and I'll answer and provide direction and strategy for all of their clients. But for me, what made the difference, honestly, is just scaling up advertising. So there is this belief, and I don't understand it, that, hey, I'm going to get on social, I'm going to do stuff for free, #free, and I'm going to drive sales, which, okay, fine, I'm on social as well. However, it's not going to be scalable. So the way that we've had these breakthroughs and made the difference is there's two things. A, we've spent money on advertising, and B, we just up the value of the clients that we look for. So, when I started my business and I might take on a client for $1,500, that's $1,500. But if I want to make $1 million a year, I'm going to have a lot of clients at $1,500 a month. So we just ramped up the marketplace. We found where the money was, and we took on larger clients. So we went from clients that were spending $3,000 or $4,000 a month on a retainer plus a small budget for advertising, and we found clients who had $70,000 a week to spend on advertising. So big difference. So as an agency, when you're making, in that case, I'm making a 20% commission, that makes a big difference to the bottom line. And then for us, we just look for opportunities. So look at where the market is. So now we're in this COVID lockdown time. The world is upside down. Some people are playing, the ostrich game. They have their head in the sand. But there's a bunch of others like ourselves that are looking for opportunities to diversify and invest time and money in other places. So in 2008, 2009, our business was probably doing a little over $1 million a year. We're 7 figures-ish. And then what I did is I went to my clients. I recommended they double down their budget. So we went from clients with 70,000 a week to 140. They were super happy. I went to my media guys and negotiated better pricing. And then we asked them to double down again. So we moved our clients to $300,000 a week. So that makes a huge difference. So for us, that was the quantum leap that took us into the 8-figure range very quickly. So yeah, you just need to think a little bit different.
That's an awesome story. Like, wow. And I think, you're absolutely right, because there's been a huge change in my life since I went to a higher quality client in terms of their financial situation, right?
Yeah.
You work with people that are startups, and they're all on a shoestring, and then you start working with people that are doing really, really well, and it's a huge difference in your business. I noticed on your site you you had an article about CBD advertising, and I just want to take a. I want to. Well, first of all, I love CBD oil, and I also have a friend who sells it, and it just ran into problem after problem after problem, and so my big question is, what do you do when Facebook bans any mention of CBD oil? And I'm just using that as an example, but oftentimes people will come up with stuff, and Twitter or Facebook or these social media places will say, no, you can't talk about it, or you can't do it, or whatever. And if you've got a secret that you're willing to share about how to get around that, I'm all ears.
Well, I've got a couple. So first of all, I mean, you want to be compliant with Facebook because they shut your account down.
Right.
I've had that experience in the weight loss industry where they don't like a picture you've put up, so they freeze your account. So then you might need to do a two-step process. So you want to build an audience of people who are interested in alternative health, or you want to build an audience of people who have a symptom that CBD oil is known to resolve. Put together your ebook, your e-learning piece, and you capture that lead into your database and your email database, and then you market them the CBD product or products. So two-step on Facebook or two-step on the social channels that say no. The question there is, can you still make money with that strategy, knowing that it's a two-step process? That's up to you to answer, know your numbers, and to test it. The other way is to look for other media that is willing to take CBD ads. So I'll come back to my friends in the email space. I have access to almost an endless number of people online that have health and ailment issues that they want to resolve. And some of them are big brand names like Dr. Oz. Would it be helpful to get your CBD brand into an email that Dr. Oz sends to his subscribers? So he's got several 100,000 people that subscribe to his newsletter. You can buy an ad in that newsletter and send it out. And they're happy to market CBD products and lots of alternative health products. So again, it comes back to my original discussion. Don't have all your eggs in one basket. Don't have Facebook as your sole provider of all your traffic, your paid traffic, or Google as your sole provider. Don't expect that SEO is going to be your sole provider again, because if the algorithms change, you get knocked out of the search engines, it's gone. The best thing you can do is have a diversified advertising strategy and a diversified traffic strategy. So if one of those areas goes down, makes a change in the policy, you're not cut off.
And that bit of white noise there where I didn't say anything was because I was busy writing down what Doug was saying. This is why I do this, is I'm a lifelong learner, and I love having people like you, Doug, who are willing to share and teach, and I'm willing to learn. And I hadn't noticed the CBD oil article. I have your website up, which is, let me just bring it up here, dougmorneau.com, and I just noticed the CBD oil thing, and I thought, wow, because 2 or 3 years ago, my buddy was just having a terrible time. PayPal was telling him, if you're selling CBD oil, we're going to cancel your account. It just went on and on and on. So pretty fascinating that you've got ways around. Well, and it's just, like you said, there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? And, and you need to look at different alternatives.
And the same with the payment processing. So you brought up a really good point. So lots of times you have an issue with payment processing. I'd say get out of the country. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, I'm born and raised in Canada, love Canada, spend a ton of time traveling in the US. Most of my clients are European based, or they're in the US and they want to market to the US. So get out of the country, go set up a company someplace else, pick a jurisdiction that works, whether it's Panama or Barbados or St. Shell, whatever it is. There's lots of countries that you can have a company incorporated with, set up a bank account and payment processing that's a lot more flexible than the rigid rules that we traditionally have. So, that's, again, you said, how do you scale? Well, maybe, you need to make some changes. And that might include setting up a different structure in a different jurisdiction. Like you're in Colombia now. I'm not familiar with the banking system there and how that works. But I do know that, if I wanted a company in Panama, I could, by the end of this week, have a company and a bank account and payment processing set up within a week. So just some room for thought.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I do a lot of courses on Udemy, and it was very interesting to me as because they had this massive growth. They now have 50 million students. And there was a point 2 or 3 years ago where they made a really bad decision, and basically uh, almost all of the instructors saw their monthly income drop by about 50%, if not more. And then they went back to the way they were doing it originally. Things came back a little bit, but the growth was gone. And then they changed their executives. Like it was very much like, and I think they even said it, like when the president stepped down, he says, you know, what I love doing is taking something from nothing and turning it into something. And we got to this level, and I'm not really interested in taking it to the next level or growing it. And he was really upfront about that. And so they brought in somebody who wanted to take it from, I think it was like 20 million students, and now he's taking it to 50 million students. So
wow.
yeah, so it took a total change in the top management for that to occur, because these people's skills were going from 0 to 20 million people. And when you hit 20 million people, they didn't have the skills to go from 20 to 50. And I think in many cases, business entrepreneurs don't realize that the skill set required for one aspect of one level of growth, momentum in your business, and then when you're in stability, that's a totally different set of skills. And if you don't have them or you don't understand it, then you get really frustrated because nothing you do, what used to work doesn't work, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's where you may want to make some changes in your team. And to your point about the traffic and CBD as an example, think if you want to exit your business. So if you built your business to a certain stage, and the guys at Udemy wanted to exit, the best thing you can do is show them that you have a variety of ways to generate leads and create income. So if a new purchaser is looking at buying your business, you can show them your financial statements and say, this is what you're buying. You're buying at 2x, 3x, 4x earnings. And this is where all my traffic comes from. And if you point just to one channel, Facebook, that's a risky venture, because if something happens to Facebook, I mean, who knows what could possibly happen? We didn't expect the pandemic. Who knows what could happen with this revolt against Facebook advertising right now? I don't know, but I certainly don't want to have all my stuff coming from one source. I want to have multiple sources, not only to grow the business and to scale the business, but if I want to exit, I can show a prospective buyer, hey, look, this is on solid footing. I've got 5 traffic sources where I get my traffic. So if one of them disappears, the business isn't going to disappear.
Right. Multiple streams of income, multiple streams of traffic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just wanted to give a shout out to my buddy Stan in Kenya. Hey, Stan, thanks for joining us. And if you've got any questions, Nick, do you want to ask me or Doug or I, then go ahead and ask them. I'll get the comments and ask Doug. And also make sure you like, share, and subscribe. So you had talked about one of the old standbys, email, and what are some of the, I was going to say secrets, but we've already talked about not giving away all our secrets. Obviously, the subject line is really important because it helps. If you don't have a good subject line, people don't open the email, and the beginning is important as well as your email. But what are some of the things that you've noticed when it comes to, like we'll put out an email and it didn't really do that great. Then we put out another one, it really did awesome. Have you noticed anything lately that seems to make a difference?
Well, that space has advanced so much. It's amazing. So for us, a tactic that people say, "Oh, email's dead. Everybody's using pick something else." TikTok, email's evolved a ton. So I use a tool that allows me to test a subject line before I send it. So I can enter in, create 6, 8, 10 subject lines. It'll go to the database and it'll look at all of the emails that have ever been sent that's in the database. It'll look at how many people it was sent to and how many people opened it and how many people clicked. And it will give me a report saying that, based on our experience, that this is what you should expect. So AI is playing a big part on subject lines. Deliverability still continues to be an issue. There's some really simple things that people need to do for deliverability. Right now, the movement for evaluating whether or not your email goes to the inbox or the promotion folder, a lot of it is engagement. So that means opens, clicks, and replies. And so if people aren't opening, clicking, and replying, you're more likely to go into the promotion tab or the spam folder. So the best thing you can do, and this is going to sound really counterintuitive, is don't send emails to people who aren't opening them anymore. I only send to people that have opened something in the last 60 days. If you haven't opened, past 60 days, now I extended it from 30 to 60 because of the pandemic, but that keeps the list fresh. That shows the email providers like the Googles and the Yahoos and whoever you're using for your email that the content's valid and it's important because people see it, they open it, they click, and they reply. So that's my short answer to a few things that you can take away and do today.
Nobody wants to hear that, Doug. I have 50 million people on my email list and only 1,000 ever open. But come on, I just can't send to 1,000 people. I need to send to that 50 million.
Yeah, and so my question, because I have that conversation a lot, and some of my clients have smaller databases and some have larger. Like I've worked with clients that have databases like 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 names. And so my question is, okay, so if you've got, 1 million names and you send it out and you get a 1% open rate, then how many names do you really have in your database? So what you're doing is you're paying for infrastructure. So you're paying your email service provider to store 1 million names, and you've got a really small percentage of people that are opening it. So that's really all you've got. So if you don't want to delete them, put them into a different program and try a nurturing campaign to win them back. But you're doing yourself a huge disservice, because what you're doing is you're telling the Googles of the world that, hey, my content's not relevant because people don't open it, they don't click on it, it goes to the promotion folder, they don't move it to the in tab. So you're really fooling yourself, you're wasting time, you're wasting money, and the more you do that, the more damage you do to your reputation as an email center.
Yeah, absolutely right. We made a big change with one of my clients, and he was always sending out, I've got an event, I've got an event, I've got a book, I've got a course. And when we started podcasting, what we did is we did a video, and then we extracted the audio, and then we put that and we embedded that on his blog. And then we got transcription, and we just put some text underneath. And then every week, twice a week, we send out an email. Joe Blow interviews Doug Morneau about marketing, and if you want to know more, blah blah blah, and then they go to the blog and they can watch the video, or they can listen if they want. And he went from 400. I don't think it was actives. I don't remember the word that they used. Engagements. They went from an average of 400 engagements per email to 1,300 in a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to be kidding. That's huge, right? And because there's nothing, there's a PS, come to my event. But basically the whole thing is just, here's information. If you're into this topic, you'll really want to listen to Doug talk about it. Yeah. And it's just, in a year it tripled, more than tripled.
And I increased my frequency in my list. I thought, I'm going to change the style that I write the email. So my emails are plain. So there's no fancy graphics, they're not formatted. I write them like I'm writing to a friend. And so, the emails that I send out are generally short. I don't put an offer in very often. I provide value, but I do have at the bottom, hey, if you want to talk, here's a link to talk to me. I think today's subject line was, hey, I have a special treat for you for lunch. And then I went on to talk about nice. An interview I'm doing at lunch, and then I promoted a podcast interview that I do with Tim Page as a webinar superhero that made $10 million. So that's basically the content of my email. But plain text, nothing fancy, easy to read. And I went from mailing once every couple weeks to mailing once a week. And then I started mailing twice a week. So I mail on Tuesdays to my list, which is a marketing focus. So I basically tell people all the stuff that I don't share publicly, I share privately with my list of what I'm doing for marketing. So that tactic I showed you about the lead gen, my list got that a month ago.
Nice.
And then on Thursdays, I do a podcast recommendation. So that's why today's was all about podcasting, because it's Thursday. But the other thing I've done is I now resend to people who haven't opened. I'm just going to see if I can pull up some stats just to give you an idea why you should do this. So I sent out a broadcast on Monday, and if people haven't opened, 4 days later, I sent it to everybody else that hasn't opened again.
Wow.
So let me just look at my last email. So I sent an email out on the 7th of July. I had 42.39% of the people open it. And then the people who didn't open it, I resent, and I had another 18.97% open it.
Wow.
And my theory was this: I'm going to see some unsubscribes, but that's fine. Do me a big favor. If you don't like my content, just get off the list. Don't let it go to the promotion folder, or don't let it sit there. It affects my deliverability. So if you don't like me in terms of what I write, fine, just delete it, but unsubscribe. But my unsubscribe rates are still pretty low.
Right.
I'm looking at the last 10 sends I've done, and my unsubscribe rate is like 1.8%. So
that's an amazing strategy. I mean, that's worth the price of admission.
I hope so. I mean, it's worked. It's worked for me. And what's funny is sometimes you'll write something, you'll send it out, no different than you produce a podcast. You're thinking, man, that was a lot of work. I didn't get any feedback. And then you get a note from somebody saying, hey, that guest you had, or that tip on your email, was just exactly what I needed to hear.
Yeah.
So, people are listening, people are reading. And I think if you serve your audience, no different than when you're posting on social. If all I did was post on social, buy my stuff, people would stop tuning in. So it's no different when you send me an email. If your only solution every time you send me an email is to pull up my credit card and talk to you, I'm going to eventually stop opening your emails, and I'm going to unsubscribe. So add some value, serve your audience. And then when you ask, there's this reciprocity because they know that you've been helping them along. Yeah.
Awesome. And that actually I was going to ask you for a tip, but you just gave it. And I think that's a great place for us to end the show, Doug. Thank you very much. If somebody wants to get a hold of you because they want to have a breakthrough in their business, how can they do that?
Just go to my website, dougmorneau.com. Sign up for my email list. You want to see the private stuff that I don't share publicly? Sign up. If you don't like it, I won't be offended at all. Unsubscribe. If you want to do me a really big favor, if you don't like it, tell me what you didn't like. But yeah, go sign up. If you want a copy of my book, sign up for my email list. When you get the response welcoming you to the list, say, hey, I heard you on the interview with Scott. I will send you a copy of my book. Here's the book. It's all about email marketing. You can buy it on Amazon for $30, or you can pay the $7 shipping and I'll send it to you. So the choice is entirely yours.
Awesome. Nice. Thank you very much, Doug. I really appreciate you sharing everything that you shared, because there's some really important gold nuggets in what you've shared today, and I really appreciate that. And for everyone that's joined us today and in the future, this has been the Internet Marketing Unleashed show. I'm Scott Patton, the Dean of Blogonomics and Podology. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.